Hey everyone, welcome back to Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Settle in, because what unfolded this week has the entire industry buzzing. Before we dive into the heart of the story, make sure you're subscribed, because what you're about to hear has been ricocheting from studio halls to fan forums, and there's more coming. Now, let's get into it. Gökberk Yildirim, who has been keeping a quiet, measured presence for a while, sat down on a primetime talk show and let a sentence hang in the air that sent social media into a frenzy. It was a simple line, barely half finished, and yet it felt like a door creaking open on a room everyone thought was sealed. He said, 10 years ago with Cemre, and then he stopped. No flourish, no punchline, just that. The studio seemed to tilt into silence, and the internet did what it always does. It guessed, it remembered, it relived, and it questioned. Was he speaking about Seamra Arda? Was he evoking a moment, a project, or something more? That single thread, dangling in public, was all it took to pull people back to a time when these two names were paired so often that it felt like one long breath. Back then, when their series dominated ratings and spilled past the screen into the culture, their chemistry made many believe that the world on set wasn't entirely separate from the one off set. Viewers watched every scene like a secret note and read between lines that may or may not have been written. Years have passed. After their unforgettable drama burned its way across the airwaves and then faded into memory, both Gökberk and Cemre took different roads. Projects, premieres, awards, new teams, new cities, fresh chapters that cemented their place as independent forces. Yet the alchemy of those early days still flickers in the collective memory. Mention one, and the other suddenly feels nearby. That's why a sentence that trails off can feel like a spark falling in a forest that's never truly gone cold. On the show, as the host nudged him through a conversation about career turns and personal milestones, Gökberk sounded calmer than we've heard him in a long time. He didn't lean on spectacle. He didn't overshare. But he did point gently to a period that shaped him. Cemre and I were in very different places 10 years ago, he said, and the way he said it, measured, unhurried, with the kind of certainty that comes from surviving the storm, made people lean forward. He never named a regret. He never offered a confession. What came through was something weighted but tranquil, respect for the past, understanding for the version of himself who lived it, and a willingness to let the memory stand without gilding it. The words that echoed most were delivered carefully, almost as if he was laying them down like glass. Some people enter your life, he said, and even when they leave your daily orbit, the mark remains. He didn't point or nudge, he didn't need to. Everyone knew who he meant. He described those fast shoots, the way dawn can feel like afternoon when you've been on set all night, the way the heart tries to organize itself when the world refuses to slow down. Fame at that age is like living at the center of a merry-go-round while it spins. It can be exhilarating, dizzying, and strangely quiet at the same time. Two actors, side by side, were not just performing a story, they were learning how to exist inside a whirlwind. Naturally, the spotlight drifted to Seamra Arda. She didn't rush to post a statement or call a reporter. She didn't need to. People who know her well say she received the line with a kind of steady grace, a nod to a period that was luminous and intense, and a reminder that the book closed with care. Cemre has always been private, always dignified in the way she speaks about old collaborators. She doesn't discard yesterday, but she doesn't live there either. To those close to her, the feeling is simple, a chapter that mattered, a chapter that taught, a chapter that ended. But this is the world of gossip and glances, and nuance rarely travels as far as thunder. Within hours, comment sections turned into town squares. Was Gökberk sharing a cherished memory? Was he leaving a breadcrumb on purpose? Some thought he wanted to hint at something personal without reopening it. Others argued the opposite. That he cut the sentence short to feed curiosity while protecting the kernel of truth he didn't want mishandled. The split among fans was instant and emotional. Let them reunite in a series, one group insisted, ready to binge on nostalgia and fresh chemistry. Let the past stay beautiful, replied another, protective of the peace they'd both built since. What no one could deny was the weight of that unfinished phrase. With Cemre 10 years ago, it might never be finished aloud. It didn't have to be. The power of it was precisely in what wasn't said. That period after the ellipsis thumped like a heartbeat. It told you there was a story within the story, a lesson wrapped in film schedules and lines delivered under harsh light, a moment of clarity that arrived long after the applause faded. The echo spilled into newsrooms and meetings, rattling the industry's usual rhythm. Editors rearranged their front pages. Producers swapped messages. People revisited interviews from back then, tracing gestures and laughter for clues they might have missed. Behind the scenes, those familiar with Gökberk's inner circle emphasized a word that keeps resurfacing: timing. Back then, success bloomed so quickly that choices sometimes outran feelings. Career milestones stacked up, and with them came expectations, some from outside, many from within. He now understands that the current of public adoration can turn every small thing into a wave and every pause into a paragraph. He admitted that pace can shape emotions in ways you can't name until you've stepped away for long enough. 10 years can turn a kaleidoscope, the same pieces form a different picture. When it comes to Seamra, the takeaway isn't that there was a secret to expose. It's that the collaboration was a pivot, a fixed point that altered both orbits. Those long nights, those crowded sets, those quiet moments when you're too tired to be anyone but yourself, those are the places where respect grows roots. And although the public loves to reduce everything to romance, maybe the truth is trickier and deeper. Maybe it's a recognition that two young actors learned how to be themselves in front of everyone, and that they carry that knowledge, quietly, into everything they do now. Days later, the story hasn't waned, it's widened. Theories multiply, and every retelling seems to reveal a new corner of the same room. Some say his unfinished thought is an act of protection, not provocation. He has kept his private life guarded for years, after all. The elegance of a sentence that stops is its refusal to invite chaos. It lets him acknowledge a hinge in his life without opening doors that could topple the balance he's worked so hard to maintain. Those who've worked with him recall how carefully he separates his roles from his reality, how he keeps the show inside the show, and home inside home. There's a philosophy in how he's approaching it now. He's not polishing the past into something perfect, and he's not letting it grow fangs. He's looking at it plainly, in daylight. Great success arrived when he was still becoming himself. He had to grow fast and decide faster. He says the years he intersected with Seamra were exactly when he learned that speed can make the heart trip over its own feet, and that time is the only thing that sorts it all out. That's why he refuses to idealize what was. Reverence, yes. Mythology, no. And what of Seamra's quiet? It speaks clearly. She's weathered storms and spotlights before, and it's her nature to keep private thoughts private. Those around her say she considers the period with warmth but doesn't want to dredge it into a spectacle. The line, to her, is a kind acknowledgement, like a postcard from a place you once lived, beautiful to hold, not a destination to move back to. She's built a life with purpose and intention, and she guards it the way you guard something you worked for with your whole heart. Silence, in her hands, is not an absence. It's a choice. Meanwhile, the nostalgia machine is humming. Production assistants from a decade ago swap anecdotes. Lighting technicians remember the late-night coffee runs and the nervous laughter before a scene that would become iconic. The little rituals resurface, the warm-ups, the shared glances when a director called for one more take, the long drives home in the half-light of morning. Expectations were sky-high then, the scrutiny was relentless. When Gökberk emphasizes 10 years, he's marking more than a span of days. He's marking the pressure cooker they both survived, the kind of intensity that either cracks you or forges you. Let's not pretend the public doesn't love a reunion fantasy. The idea that the two might appear in a project together again has never left the conversation entirely. It's baked into every comment that begins with "what if," and every message that tags both of them in a hopeful wish. But maybe the richest part of this moment is the maturity coloring it. Nobody is demanding confessions. People are, surprisingly, honoring the sentiment. Social feeds filled with notes that sound like a collective exhale, we see it. We remember. We're grateful. And we're okay letting it be. Still, curiosity is oxygen in our world. Where did he intend to go with that sentence? Did he mean a memory they share alone, something that happened off camera when no one was watching? Or did he mean the lesson that flowed beneath it all, the one that keeps surfacing now that the noise is gone? The closest we may get to an answer is what we already saw, a tone, a look, the faint smile you wear when a scene plays in your head that you can't or won't narrate aloud. The restraint is the message. The unfinished is the point. Context matters here. Over the last few years, both have chosen projects that test their range rather than feed headlines. They've drawn lines around their private lives and kept those lines intact. When the host asked about that, Gökberk didn't flinch. He said the healthiest thing he learned was how to leave some stories where they belong. The audience applauded, not wildly, but sincerely. It felt like people understood that growing up in public means deciding, again and again, what is yours to share and what is yours to keep. For those who lived through that era as fans, this week felt like slipping a favorite record onto the turntable and hearing a familiar crackle before the music begins. The room changes. You remember where you were when certain scenes aired, who you were watching with, what the city smelled like that summer. You remember holding your breath during a quiet moment on screen and wondering how much of it was fiction and how much of it was a mirror. The magic of those days isn't just that the show was good. It's that it made people feel seen at a moment when everyone was racing, and here were two characters, two actors, reminding us that feelings don't keep time with schedules. The industry reaction has been telling. Colleagues of both actors have weighed in with a softness that suggests they, too, carry the imprint of those years. Directors point out how rare it is for a partnership to become an era. Crew members swap smiles when their names are mentioned because they remember that set is a place where high expectations and genuine camaraderie somehow coexisted. And tucked inside all of this, like a knot that never fully loosens, is the recognition that some connections change you without promising to last forever. The echo is the evidence. If you're waiting for a scandal, you won't find one here. What you'll find is something harder to headline. Tenderness without spectacle, clarity without cruelty. The unfinished sentence works precisely because it respects the distance between then and now. It holds the past with two steady hands and places it gently back on the shelf. Nothing breaks. Nothing spills. And yet you feel the tremor that runs through the room. As night fell after the episode aired, fan accounts clipped and subtitled the moment in every language the internet can carry. The clip drifted across borders, and strangers met in the comments to reminisce about plotlines and lines of dialogue that feel woven into their own histories. Someone posted a photo of the city skyline from a decade ago and wrote, "This is what it looked like the night the finale aired," and another replied with, "I was 19 and I believed in everything." Underneath it all, the same question rose and fell: what was he going to say next? Maybe the answer is that he wasn't. Maybe stopping was the whole point. Maybe he wanted to say to Cemre, to the version of himself from back then, to all of us who were watching, I see it now, I carry it, and I don't need to unravel it on camera. There's a grace in that choice that doesn't always get the applause it deserves. But in the rare quiet that followed, you could sense appreciation settling in like a hush at the end of a performance, when the lights are still low and everyone is deciding whether to clap or simply hold the moment. So here we are, 10 years later, and somehow right back in that glow. What comes next isn't a reunion announcement or a tell-all. It's subtler and, in a way, more satisfying. It's the knowledge that the work meant something, that the partnership left a contour on the lives it touched, that two artists can honor a shared past without being trapped in it. It's the sight of two careers that have grown in different directions and yet, on nights like this, align in the sky like constellations you recognize from long ago. You felt it, didn't you? That pull? The unfinished sentence, the memory it opened, the quiet dignity of leaving some doors closed. Around here, we track these tremors. We listen for the notes that linger after the music stops. And when the story is this delicate, we resist stomping on it for the sake of louder noise. We keep it intact so you can feel it, the way it was meant to be felt. This is Turkish Spotlight Secrets, and we'll be watching what ripples out from that one careful line. If something more is meant to be said, it will find its way. Until then, let's honor the moment for what it is. A small, shining piece of truth about who they were, who they are, and how far they've come. Don't forget to subscribe, share this with a friend who watched that series with you back then, and tell us what you think the rest of that sentence might have been. Or maybe, just maybe, you think it was perfect exactly where he stopped.